Well, summer has came and gone. It is time to do my ranking of the summer movies from worst to best. And this is going to be the first, actually the second time I do a summer movie ranking thing. Because last year was 2016. But here's how we're going to do this. We're going to do best, in between, worst, honorable mentions. I got them all written down, so we're gonna go backwards. So let me just say, this is my opinion. So if you don't like some of the choices I put on here, please do not get upset and don't get frustrated. I'm willing to hear what your list would be for best and worst in between movies. And if you have any honorable mentions, they are included too. So let's get started. At number 20, now. First up is number 3 is honorable mention is A Ghost Story. Now, A Ghost Story, this was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I liked the premise. This movie is very emotionally well done, and this movie does put you through emotions throughout this movie, and you are experiencing those emotions as you watch the movie. And I feel like Rooney Mara and all the cast, they did a great job. The director did a good job. I just felt like this movie felt really sad, and just a sad movie is really intense. So yeah, that's how I felt about it. It did have some flaws. I did think the movie was a little bit slow paced, and I did feel like the movie got a little bit too emotional for its own good. But I wouldn't be lying if I didn't say this movie was entertaining, because this movie was pretty entertaining. Now, at number 2, we have It Comes at Night. Yes, despite the crazy misleading marketing, I did enjoy this movie. I thought this was a good movie. This was really, really entertaining, and I really do think that this movie was really great. The directing style was good. The premise was cool, but the trailers did kind of lie to you. I didn't watch any of the trailers. I just watched the movie. And the acting was great from Joel Edgerton. Everyone did a good job. I thought the movie really did do what... I really did think the movie really did surprise me. It was very good. I thought it was entertaining. And it was pretty watchable. So, number 2 is It Comes at Night. And my number 1 last honorable mention is Annabelle Creation. I enjoyed Annabelle Creation more than I did the first one. Not that I am against the first one. I just think the first one was a little boring. But it's pretty decent, to be honest. This one, it did have some boring parts, but it knew when to pick up its pace, and it did it magnificently. And it did a brilliant job at it. So, I do give this movie a lot of credit, because this movie was willing to try something different. It was willing to expand the Conjuring universe. Now I'm looking forward to The Conjuring 3 and other Conjuring universe-based films that are cool. Because I love The Conjuring. And so, yeah. And this movie was really creepy. And do not own an Annabelle doll ever. Now let's get into the worst of the worst for summer. Now, these are only 3 options, and I am going to go quick with these worst, because I do not want to talk about these for a long time. And my third worst movie of the summer is Snatched. I cannot believe this. This movie, it calls itself a comedy. Guess what? This movie wasn't funny. it wasn't entertaining, and it was not even good. Everyone just... I didn't laugh once. The only thing this movie got out of me was a few chuckles because I was sitting through a movie so freaking stupid. This movie is terrible. Freaking terrible. Man, I cannot believe this movie actually got greenlit by Fox. I can't believe Goldie Hawn's in the movie, because she is the best thing in this movie besides a few other actors, and one thing that did make me laugh. And Amy Schumer, I'm sorry, but I don't care about Amy Schumer. She's not funny to me. I don't find her funny at all. And that is the honest to God truth. I don't find her funny. Now at number 2, we have Cars 3. Pixar is a great company. I love Pixar. I love all of their films. Some of them more than others. My favorite Pixar movie is still Toy Story 3. But this is a very disappointment into the Cars series. I don't care for this car franchise. They're not interesting. They're not watchable. They're not entertaining. And I was barely entertained by this movie. This movie did not entertain me. This movie disappointed me. And the only Cars movie that is watchable is Cars 1. The second one, not so much. This one had potential, but the potential was torn down. And the voice acting is good, the animation is nice, but Cars 3 is a disappointment to the Cars franchise. And if people like it, it's fine. I respect you. And if people like this other movie I'm going to talk about, that's fine too. Because now let's get into my number 1, which is Transformers 5: The Last Knight. Now, true story, I was excited for this movie. I really was excited for this movie. Because I love the first 4 Transformers movies. These Transformers movies, they're not the greatest in the world, but they're not terrible movies. But then the reviews came in. The reviews said this movie was bad, and so did I believe them? Oh yes, I did. This is the only Transformers movie I didn't like, and I'm not going to bash any other person for liking these movies. You have a reason to like. If you like the movie, you just like the movie. If you think the movie's okay, it's okay. But this franchise has been going Star Trek route, okay, for real. And I thought this would have been the good version of Star Trek V: The Final Frontier in the Transformers series. I really did. But I was wrong. Optimus is barely in it. He's barely evil. You have the military teaming up with the Decepticons. A bunch of things that are confusing to me. The story was confusing. The characters are just whatever. But the actors, they try with the material that they are given. And I'm hoping Transformers 6 is better and Bumblebee makes up for this. Because until I hear a director for Transformers 6 who actually has sense, I'm really going to be hesitant on it. So, yeah, those are my worst movies of 2017 summer season. Now let's talk about the 6 movies that I feel like are in between. These, I think, are okay to just disappointing at best. So let's talk about it. Number 6, we have Atomic Blonde. with Charlie Theron. I wasn't anticipating this movie, but I did want to give it a chance to see what all the buzz was about. And then I saw the movie. It was okay, and it's by the director of John Wick Chapter 1. So that was pretty awesome to see. I thought Atomic Blonde was pretty decent. It wasn't the greatest thing ever. It did have some problems I personally had. It was just a pretty entertaining movie, to be honest. I didn't think it was that bad. It was good, but not great. The action is nice. Soundtrack was pretty cool. Charlie Theron, James McAvoy, they're great. The cast is great. But the story is kind of lacking, and Sophia Boutella is not in this movie that much because she gets killed off. But I do enjoy the action scenes. I do enjoy Charlie Theron fighting, and she's also produced on this movie. So I didn't like the whole ending, how it played out, but I'm looking forward to the sequel if there is going to be one soon, which probably not, but so if nothing else, I did enjoy watching Atomic Blonde. Now, in number 5, this was a surprise. Despicable Me. Yes, Despicable Me 3. I am not a big fan of the Despicable Me movies, but I am now after watching this movie. Because this movie was great. I really did enjoy it. The reason why it's not on my best is because I did have 2 little issues with it. I felt like the movie was a little boring, and also there's this one character I thought was annoying, but the minions were pretty sweet. I love Steve Carell. All the acting was great in it, and it has me interested in checking out the first 2 and the Minions film. So I do want to see those. They look pretty good. And I really do think that this is a good movie. And this is the second Illumination film to gross over $1 billion. So that's pretty cool. So yeah. And number 4 is All Eyes on Me. This I was looking forward to seeing because it was the first movie ever filmed about Tupac. And I love Tupac's music, and I was interested in watching this movie. And I love other biography films like Ray and Notorious and the Michael Jackson film story, and then Michael Jackson's This Is It. I love music biographies about people, but this one was a disappointing one because this had a lot of potential, but the potential did let me down, and I kind of felt a little overwhelmed by this movie. I don't know what was going. He's glossed over a lot of stuff in his life, and I think this movie would have been better if it was on BET. Not to say there's nothing good in this movie. The acting was great. It was great hearing Tupac's songs. Some of the scenes in this movie are shot pretty well. Demetrius Shipp Jr. makes a good debut in his acting career, and Kat Graham was really great. Lauren Cohan, Dana Guerrera. All of the acting in this movie was great. And I was pretty entertained by some of this movie, but half of this movie I was sitting there like, okay, you're glossing over a lot of important things in his life, but I still thought this film was okay at best. It's a time waster, and it's not the worst thing ever, but it is a disappointment for me, because as a fan of Tupac, this should have been a lot better. This should have been a lot better. But it's a time waster at best. And number 3, we have Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I was also looking forward to this one too. This one looked interesting. You got the director, Luc Besson, which I like his movies. I love The Fifth Element. I love Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, and this movie looked really good. And I thought the movie was okay at best. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping it was. But it wasn't the worst thing ever. It was pretty entertaining, and I thought that there were some moments in here that were entertaining, but the moments in this movie are heavily filled with with some story issues and character development issues, and some performances in here are not all that good. But Bacard Delevingne and Dane DeHaan, they did a good job. I liked the actor who played their commander. I liked Rihanna in this movie as a shapeshifter. She's decent as an actress. She's not horrible. She was decent in Battleship too, but there's just a little extra something missing. You know, extra something missing. And it kills me to put this on my okay movies, because this movie should have been more than okay. I should have loved this movie, but I didn't get to like this movie as much as I thought I would. But it's okay. It's alright. I'm not gonna blame this movie for it. Now, number 2 is The Dark Tower. The Dark Tower was another film I was pretty much excited about. I never read the books, so I went to this movie cold turkey. And so this movie was pretty much an okay film. I expected more from it. I was expecting this to be much more better, but this film is still somewhat watchable for a summer movie, but it should have been better. It should have been a lot better. The acting is great from Idris Elba and the little boy and Matthew McConaughey. They do a good job, but I felt like the movie could have been much better if the movie was more longer, because this movie does lack some world build up, and the film does lack some characterization for some of the characters. But I don't hate this movie as much as everyone else does. I just thought this movie could have been a little better, but it is a watchable summer movie, so that's the best I can say about it. It's not horrible, and I'm not going to sit here and say it is horrible, because it isn't. So yeah. And as my number 1 in-between movie I thought was alright was Rough Night. Rough Night was pretty entertaining. I saw this for Scarlett Johansson. It looked interesting, and it looked It looked like a cool film, so I said, you know what, let me watch it. This could be fun. And I will say that the film is fun, but some of the jokes were a little bit too much. But I did like some of the jokes. I did like seeing Demi Moore in this movie. Scarlett Johansson always brings her A game. And the directing in this movie is pretty solid. So I can't fully say that this is a bad film. And this is a pretty insane film. So Rough Night is an okay movie. Now we get into the best of 2017. And let's talk about at number 17, Ingrid Goes West. I really enjoyed this one. This was a funny comedy. It was very entertaining, very watchable. It made me laugh. Elizabeth Olsen and Aubrey Plaza had good chemistry. I thought this was an awesome movie. I thought it was pretty entertaining, pretty watchable, and just at least enjoyable. And so I easily can't falter the movie for that alone, because it is a decent, good time. So I have to say that I do enjoy some parts in this movie. It's not a perfect movie, no, but it is a good film, and I really enjoyed watching this entertaining at best film. And so it was pretty nice. So yeah, I will give that movie that. I will be talking about this a little soon. So yeah. At number 16, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul. I know a lot of people don't like these Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, but I do. I think they're pretty funny, they're pretty watchable, and they're pretty entertaining. And they are at least somewhat good. They are very funny. I think they're huge guilty pleasures for me. And so yeah, but they're not the worst things ever. I've seen far worse from this film series, any movie series, you could tell me. But this was a good movie. It was very funny. I laughed, and I had some fun. So I can't deny that this movie was not fun, because it was fun and it was entertaining. So in my absence, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul is one of my favorite films of summer. It's not a masterpiece, certainly not perfect, but it still is a enjoyable film, and to a certain extent, and that is all that matters. So that's right. At number 15, we have Lowriders. Lowriders was a underrated film. It didn't get a big release, but a lot of people just did not go see this movie. I think this was a limited release, but this movie should have been a worldwide release, because if this was a worldwide release, this movie would have done so much more at the box office. And it was a good drama. All the acting here was good, and Melissa Benoist is unrecognizable as her character she plays. So that was pretty awesome to see Melissa Benoist take on a different kind of part. I love and all the other actors were good in here too. So this is not a bad movie. So yeah, I do really enjoy watching this film. And number 14 is another movie with Elizabeth Olsen, Wind River. This was a very intriguing crime drama, and this movie got intense. Taylor Sheridan wrote and directed, and I have to say that this movie is fantastically, excellently well made. It's really good. This is a very entertaining movie with a lot of great elements, great acting, great atmosphere. I did have some pacing issues, but Wind River was still a very entertaining movie, to say the least, and it wasn't terrible. I don't think it was terrible. It was just pretty solid. And Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen's performance were amazing. So that's why I put this movie on the list. And number 13, Wish Upon. I know people don't like this either, but come on, guys. It's not that freaking bad. It's more of a entertaining ride. And it was pretty good. It was such an entertaining ride. It's just something about this movie struck my attention, and the film looks really good, and the idea of you make different wishes and these wishes come true and kill people is just an interesting idea to play with. So all the acting was great, the movie atmosphere was good, the direction was pretty good, but the movie's ending was pretty downbeat. So the ending could have been better, but still not a bad movie, not as bad as critics make it out to be either. Now, at number 12, we have Chris Nolan's Dunkirk. This was another grand slam from Chris Nolan, but the problem I have with this movie is that there wasn't any girls in this movie, and people say there's no character development, and if I appreciate that there was not much character development, because if there was a lot of character development, you wouldn't be able to have all of this and people will start to get bored with the movie very quickly. So I was fine with there not being a whole lot of character development. I was still liking the movie for the most part. It's not like it's a bad movie. People are very polarized. Some people say this is his disappointment. Some people love it. It's just like Interstellar. But I love any movie Chris Nolan makes. He is a great director, and just he's one of my favorite movie directors of today. This man, I respect Chris Nolan. I respect this man. He brought back Batman, and he gave us something mind blowing with Inception. But this movie, Dunkirk, it was pretty awesome. And the acting was great, especially on Harry Styles' part, since this was the first movie. And again, if there's not any girls, but this is still a good movie. So yeah, I will say that much. Go watch it. Now, number 11, we have War for the Planet of the Apes. A great conclusion to Caesar's story. Now, I will say this: you can't go beyond Caesar's story for the next Planet of the Apes movie, but you can explore more into the mythology and into this, and that's what I think you can do. This is not a terrible movie, okay? I've seen worse, and this movie did good at the box office. And I was impressed with this movie, okay? It's not that bad. It's pretty awesome, pretty good. And I thoroughly had fun with War of the Planet of the Apes. It was a great end to Caesar. If you don't give any circus an Oscar, Academy of Motion Picture Arts Sciences, a lot of people are going to be protesting. So it's okay. So overall, that's my thoughts on War of the Apes. I've done a video about it already, so if you want more, go check out the video on my channel. Now, at number 10, we have Baywatch. A lot of people hated Baywatch. I didn't. I thought Baywatch was a good movie. It was pretty entertaining, and it was funny. I loved the references to High School Musical. I loved I love the references they made to High School Musical with Zac Efron. Sure, it does have some R-rated stuff, but this is R-rated, so of course it's gonna have cursing, it's gonna have hot girls and stuff. And Alexandra Daddario was pretty good. Kelly Rohrbach for her first movie was pretty good, and I love The Rock and Zac Efron's chemistry. A lot of people say this is a bad movie. This is not a bad movie. This is an underrated movie, and this movie was even more awesome than I thought it was. And if they do a sequel, I'm in. Coming to number 9, we have King Arthur: Legend of the Sword. I know people hate this one too. One problem I do have with this movie is that I feel like this movie with the action scenes, the camera is speeding way too much, and you don't need that with a movie about King Arthur. We need to be able to see the action, but I do like this movie. Astrid Burgess Frisbee, she was kind of underused in this movie, and you already know that the story, so it's basically, the movie is basically predictable, and but I do love everything else in the film. It was just pretty good, and it was pretty awesome, and I just really enjoyed what they were doing with this. Guy Ritchie knows how to shoot a good movie, and he shot the movie very well. The movie looks beautifully shot, and the musical score is incredible. So that's my honest thoughts on King Arthur: Legends of the Sword. And number 8, Alien Covenant. I know. Why is Alien Covenant on this list, Joshua? Because I enjoyed it. It wasn't horrible. I think people just went too far and say this was a bad movie when you knew it was not. I appreciate these new films for doing something different, and because this movie is underperformance, we're probably about to get Alien 5 again, which I don't know about Alien 5. It kind of sounds like Aliens all over again, but I can give it a chance. And because Neil Blomkamp is one of my favorite directors, he did give us something like District 9, and I loved Elysium, and I loved Chappie. Chappie was a pretty good movie in my opinion. So it's not that bad of a film. Also, this movie, they did kill off James Franco. I wish James Franco was in it more. I wish there was more character stuff. But it was great seeing the Xenomorphs again. Ridley Scott is still a good director. So people, leave him alone. Now, as we are at number 7, The Mummy. I know, Sean, you ain't gotta tell me in the comments this movie disappointed you, but this is not a bad movie. I was entertained by this one. It actually surprised me. It was actually fun, and it was actually pretty entertaining to watch. And so I thought this movie was pretty good, and for the start of the Universal Dark Cinematic Universe, you should have still went with your Dracula Untold, but I'm okay with starting over due to a movie's negative reception. They did it for DCEU because Green Lantern was horrible. Green Lantern was terrible. Okay, and that movie was just so. But The Mummy was pretty good. Tom Cruise was good. Russell Crowe, the acting was great. I loved the direction. Sofia Boutella was amazing as The Mummy. Russell Crowe was amazing. But the movie, it did feel a little rushed, and the movie did has a little bit of identity crisis trouble, which you can fix that with future Universal Monsters movies. I thought this was pretty entertaining, and it is not the worst one to me at all. I think people just went to this movie and say it's a bad movie because they don't like this idea of a new Mummy movie, but I do, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Universal's Dark Monster Cinematic Universe does next. Coming in at number 6, we are down to the top 6. We have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy. That movie was a big surprise in 2014. I really enjoyed that movie. I thought that movie was great. It had great comedy, great humor, and James Gunn introduced us to a brand new set of characters that no one was familiar with until now. And this movie was just as fun and just as great as the first one. I don't care what anyone says. This was a major improvement over Doctor Strange. I know what you're about to say, Joshua. Doctor Strange wasn't that bad. I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I'm just saying I was disappointed with it. But I have to say that this film is pretty entertaining, pretty awesome, and the story was more engaging. There was more action. And you get to know more of each of the other Guardians besides Star-Lord. You see more flashbacks of his childhood, and Star-Lord's mom is pretty hot. She was one of the reasons why I sat through Transformers 5. I really enjoy all the performances from Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, Sylvester Stallone, Kurt Russell, and the twist I didn't see coming. So I have to say that twist was really unexpected. That was an awesome twist, and it will be confusing for those who don't watch the cartoon. But I thoroughly enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It is not overrated, and it is not the worst movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is not a bad movie. It is just as great as Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it's just as fresh as its predecessor. I do have some issues, but this is a sequel to a surprising MCU movie. At number 5, we have Pirates of the Caribbean 5, Dead Man Tell No Tales. Yeah, I find it crazy that we are 5 movies into this franchise. This franchise has been going since 2003. And I love The Curse of the Black Pearl. The Curse of the Black Pearl was a great start to the series. Dead Man's Chest is my favorite. At World's End, I did not watch until this year, which this year was my very first time I watched At World's End. I've rewatched it more times, but the movie still has problems. It's convoluted. It's still too much going on. It's still way too long. But On Stranger Tides was an improvement over it. And while Dead Man Tell No Tales is not as good as better than On Stranger Tides, I still think this is a good movie. Johnny Depp proves that he still got it. He is the reason why this franchise is still profitable. If At World's End was the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I would have hated the way it ended too. And the new cast was great. I loved Javier Bardem as Captain Salazar. He was menacing. He was frightening. He was scary. I like him more as Salazar more than I do as Silva. But I do respect Javier Bardem as an actor. The new 2 leads, Karina Smith, Kayla Scodelario, and Brenton Thwaites as Henry Turner, the son of Will Turner. That was pretty awesome to see. I loved seeing them in this movie. You do get a cameo by Elizabeth and Jack, Elizabeth and Will Turner. And Jeffrey Rush's Barbossa, he was great. And a lot of people just did not like this movie, but screw the bad reception. This was a great film. I loved it. I do have some issues with it, and I did talk about those issues. But Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales is not the last one. And I hope the DVD and Blu-ray and home media sales does very well, because with Johnny Depp, these Pirates movies with home media sales, they do good anyway. I hope they do great, so we can get one more Pirates of the Caribbean movie. But don't bring back Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley. Stick with Henry and Karina. And you've done enough with Davy Jones, so it's best to just not bring him back. Coming in number 4 is Baby Driver. This was one of 2 Edgar Wright movies I saw, which which is written and directed by Edgar Wright. I will catch up on his other films, but I thought Baby Driver was great. It was. I really dig this movie. Loved the soundtrack. I like how this movie played out. I love how this movie decided to do some cool things. The soundtrack fit perfectly. The music was great. The acting all the way around was fantastic from everybody, especially on the part of Ansel Elgort and everyone. They all just did a fantastic job. And just Jamie Foxx, Isa Gonzalez, she was hot. She's a badass. Lily James was cool. Kevin Spacey was cool. John Bernthal was good. And Jamie Foxx was great. The comedy was good. The writing was good. The action was good. Only complaints that I felt like the movie was a little too long, and I felt like there was some song choices that didn't fit. But this was still a good movie, and Baby Driver, I'm willing to see what Edgar Wright does next. So yeah. Coming in number 3 is Spider-Man Homecoming. I love Spider-Man Homecoming. This was awesome. And not only I love it, but my YouTube friends do too. This was a great way to bring back Spider-Man after the disappointments of The Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. And thanks to Homecoming, one of the Amazing Spider-Man movies is no longer watchable, but the only one in that series that is watchable for me is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because it's actually lighthearted. But I love the first 3 Spider-Man movies. Those were great. This movie here was great. It felt good to have a Spider-Man movie that didn't feel like it had to set up Sinister Six bullcrap we didn't need, or unnecessary stuff we didn't need. All it needed to be was just a good movie and good, entertaining fun. And that's what Spider-Man Homecoming was. I love Tom Holland. I love Michael Keaton as a Vulture. I love Zendaya. She's not MJ. Again, what I said in my spoiler talk, you might want to get Catherine McNamara for Mary Jane, and for Gwen Stacy, if you ought to put her, either Elle Fanning or Dove Cameron. But I see Dove Cameron taking on some, but we will get to her in a minute. But Marissa Tomei was hot as Aunt May, and Robert Downey Jr. was great. Action was great. The homecoming scenes were great. I loved Liz. Everything about this movie was great, and the twist was great. And this was really, really entertaining. So I can't wait to watch this movie again. It's on my Amazon wish list, so I will be picking up the Blu-ray combo pack coming January when tax time comes and when I get my Blu-ray player. So yeah. Coming in number 2 is Descendants 2. Yes, my mom bought this movie for the entire family. I don't hate this movie, okay? I know a lot of people don't like these Descendants movies. They don't like seeing Dove Cameron take on something different as the daughter of Maleficent. I have been a fan of Dove Cameron since 2013 when I first saw her in Liv and Maddie. And I loved her in Hairspray Live. I loved her in Barely Lethal with Haley Steinfeld. I love her in Cloud 9. I loved her in Monsterville Cabinet of Souls. And I loved the first Descendants, surprisingly. I didn't expect anything out of the first Descendants. I thought it looked, but judging by the trailer. And then it wasn't until my mom told me, Joshua, you should watch Descendants. It's got Dove Cameron in it. And I did, and I loved it. And this one, I don't love as much as the first one, but I still love it. I love the returning cast this time, and I love seeing Dove have to take all this Perfect Princess stuff and the pressure becomes too much for her, and you have a scene of her crying, which she showed emotion. And the musical numbers were great. I thought Kenny Ortega put some action in there, and the fight between Team Uma and Team Mao. China McClain was really good as Uma. And my favorite songs in this movie is Going Down, Ways to Be Wicked, You and Me, and Chilling Like a Villain. And also they did a rendition for Kiss the Girl from The Little Mermaid for the soundtrack. I love the rendition. I love both versions of Kiss the Girl, and I love this movie so much, and the first one, that I actually have both of the soundtracks on my computer. So I'm lucky me. I don't have the first one. I mean, I don't have the first one yet, but we will be getting the first one soon. That way I'll have both of them, because the first one is my favorite of the two, and I'm looking forward to Descendants 3, and Descendants 3, I can't wait. And it is going to be sad to see Cameron Boyce go after 7 years of Disney Channel, but he's an adult and he's ready to move on. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Dove Cameron in anything she does. I'm looking forward to her solo album. And before I go to number one, let me just say right now that the day of the movie premiere, Dove Cameron liked my 2 tweets I was tweeting about the movie. So I was lucky to get a like from Dove Cameron. That was awesome. Now is my number one favorite movie of favorite movie of summer 2017, and probably my favorite movie of the year so far, and my favorite superhero movie of the year, Wonder Woman. Yes, my mom bought this movie. I freaking love Wonder Woman. This movie was great. Gal Gadot really proved herself. She stood out. She was amazing. She was fantastic as Wonder Woman. Screw the haters. Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman. And this movie is not overrated. Spider-Man Homecoming isn't overrated. And Guardians 2 is not overrated, okay? Those 3 films are great. I love them. The only problem I have with the film, which is more of a nitpick, is the whole Aris thing. But I can forgive it because the movie was still entertaining. 2 hours and 21 minutes for an origin story. It didn't feel like it. Patty Jenkins directed the hell out of this. The action is great. All performances all the way around are great. The music is great. My favorite scene in this movie is No Man's Land, behind the first flight scene in Man of Steel, and the warehouse scene in Batman v Superman, and the Trinity team up fight scene between Doomsday and BVS. This movie is my second favorite DCEU movie. BVS is still my favorite one, and I'm looking forward to see more of this film, of this character. And thanks to this movie, we can now get more successful female superhero movies like this. And James Cameron, I may like him, but I'm just going to have to say right now, I disagree with you on this movie. This movie didn't take a step backward. It took a step forward for female superhero movies. And I'm looking forward to more female superhero movies in the future. A Supergirl DCEU movie. I would love to see Olivia Wilde play Catwoman in a Batman movie, or a standalone Catwoman movie, or Gotham City Sirens. The possibilities are endless. And I would love to see a standalone Psylocke movie with Olivia Munn as Psylocke. And anything is possible. So I enjoy Wonder Woman. Let's honorable mentions: A Ghost Story, It Comes at Night, Annabelle Creation. Worst movies: Snatched, Car Street, Transformers 5, The Last Night. Guys, don't hate me for that, including my good friend Joe Kaczynski. He disagrees with me on the movie, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree, Joe. And my in-between movies are Atomic Blonde, Despicable Me 3, which was more surprising, All Eyes on Me, Valerian, The City of a Thousand Planets, The Dark Tower, Rough Night, and my best of Number 17 is Ingrid Goes West. Number 16, Diary of a Wimpy Kid 4, The Long Haul. Number 15, Low Riders. Number 14, Wind River. Number 13, Wish Upon. Number 12, Dunkirk. Number 11, War for the Planet of the Apes. Number 10 is Baywatch. Number 9 is King Arthur Legend of the Sword. Number 8 is Alien Covenant. Number 7 is The Mummy. Number 6, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 5, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales. Number 4, Baby Driver. Number 3, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 2 is Descendants 2. And my number 1 favorite film of the summer is... Sorry if this was a little long, guys. So, let me know what you guys... worst and best of summer movies ranking down below. What is your most underrated? What is the most underrated? What was more surprising? What was the least surprising? Which one was your favorite movie, and what was your least favorite film of the summer? And I'll see you guys soon. And if you like this, you can come here and we can have a good time.